lively until I walked in.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ceremony will begin shortly. Please move to your seats, and please turn off your cell phones and silence your electronic devices. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the retirement ceremony to honor Colonel Eric S. Puls, who has earned special recognition and served our country with distinction. The host for today's ceremony is Major General Michael C. McCurry, Commanding General, United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence at Fort Novosel. The honorees are Colonel and Mrs. Eric Puls. Joining us today from the command group are Major General McCurry, Mr. Robert C. Dewar, Deputy to the Commanding General, Mrs. Coruscant, spouse of the Chief Warrant Officer of the branch, Command Sergeant Major, and Mrs. Coley, Command Sergeant Major of the branch. Joining us as honored guests, Major General retired Lou Hennies, Brigadier General Jonathan Byram, and Brigadier General retired William Grove. Family members in the audience are Colonel Puls' mother, Mrs. Bonnie Puls, his eldest daughter, his wife, Monica Puls.
She looks like it.
His mother, Bonnie, his eldest daughter, Catherine Puls, and his sister, Michelle Puls. The Puls' youngest daughter, Lexi, is attending advanced individual training and is unable to attend. Flowers are now being presented to Colonel Puls' wife, Monica, for her undying love, support, and dedication over the years. Flowers are also being presented to Colonel Puls' mother, Bonnie, and daughter, Catherine. And a gift is presented to Colonel Puls' sister, Michelle. Colonel Puls entered military service in May of 1990 as a UH-1 crew chief in the Maine Army National Guard. He later attended the University of Maine and earned a degree in secondary education and commissioned an aviation branch second lieutenant in May of 1994. During his more than 30 years of military service, Colonel Puls served in numerous locations, including Fort Bragg, North Carolina, Fort Polk, Louisiana, Fort Hood, Texas, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, Fort Riley, Kansas, and Fort Rucker, Alabama. His overseas assignments include the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt and Monrovia, Liberia. Colonel Puls also served in multiple combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan in support of Operations Iraqi and Enduring Freedom. He is qualified in the TH-67, UH-1, and OH-58D Kiowa Warrior. Upon retirement, Colonel Puls and his wife, Monica, plan to reside in Kansas City, Missouri. Ladies and gentlemen, Major General McCurry.
Hey, thanks everybody, and thanks for being here at the home of Army Aviation. General Hennies, General Wolf, other distinguished guests, visitors, welcome home, and thanks for being here to support Eric and the team. Let me start by saying how honored I am to be here, and that Eric asked me to help him in his final act here in the military today. There's nothing that I can say or do that adequately represents what this incredible soldier, officer, and leader, or his family, have given for our nation and the freedoms we enjoy over the last 33 years. Eric, I'm honored to stand here today with you and your family. Let me talk about the family. So we got, like Monica introduced earlier, neighbors and friends, supporting each other in the neighborhood there. Mother Bonnie, and Derek, I know your dad's watching over us today and he's extremely proud. Sister Michelle and daughter Catherine, and thank you for what each of you have done and continue to do. And especially Private Puls out there today. Eric and Monica's daughter Lexi, who's currently really serving and training in AIT. We're proud of your service and how it's continuing for our nation. We're here today to say goodbye to Colonel Eric Puls after 33 years of distinguished service to our Army Aviation, and the nation. And retirement is one of those culminating events that brings joy, reflection, anticipation, and apprehension. I'm certain it's no different for Eric and Monica today. Monica says less apprehension. However, retirement's a journey. And as the saying goes, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a first step. But before we talk about that first step, let's talk about another first step. Eric's exposure to the military started way before he enlisted to serve in 1990. His father was an Air Force NCO. And as a military brat, Eric grew up in different states and Europe during his youth. And the year he enlisted was a pivotal one on the world stage. The Cold War ended. East and West Germany reunited. Margaret Thatcher resigned as the Prime Minister of the UK, and Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. In more interesting news, though, Seinfeld and The Simpsons debuted on their respective. Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin was the top movie of the year. Cheers, Roseanne, and The Cosby Show dominated primetime network TV. Do we even have primetime network TV anymore? The 49ers were the reigning Super Bowl champions until Scott Norwood's kick sailed wide right and the Giants defeated the Buffalo Bills in the Super Bowl. And the great hockey dynasty Edmonton Oilers were Stanley Cup champions. But what should really take us back is gas was $1.34 a gallon. You could buy a 5-pound bag of potatoes or a dozen eggs for 89 cents. These fun facts help us laugh a little at this emotional and pivotal moment, but they also really frame the amount of time that this Army family and soldier have been serving. Eric initially enlisted to serve with the Maine National Guard as a Huey crew chief, an iconic aircraft slowly becoming extinct, except for the work of some of our friends nearby, but it's an immensely cherished platform by those of us who flew and maintained it, especially our Vietnam veterans, some of whom are here today. Following graduation from the University of Maine, Eric was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the aviation branch in 1994. During his career, he heard the aircraft he qualified in, the most important one being the Kiowa Warrior, and he became a senior Army aviator. He's a decorated combat veteran with 3 combat tours and 3 operational deployments, and he served in a myriad of responsible and challenging assignments, from AirCab platoon leader through battalion command, and being our aviation expert at the Mission Command Training Program, the crucible in which we train division and corps commanders to deliver what we now call convergence. Eric was handpicked for this assignment based on his warfighting acumen, ability to teach, and to speak with candor to senior leaders. He was also chosen for the last assignment here at USACE as the Director of Training and Doctrine for the same reason, but also in order to capture the lessons learned from so many warfighters, which he's got well on track to happen by 30 September, right? In each of his assignments, his performance has been nothing less than outstanding. Let me share some of the most recent accomplishments here at DOTD. He's been on the leading edge of Army aviation transformation. His directorates led USACE efforts to train aviation soldiers and leaders to fight and win in large-scale combat operations. He led the redesign of USACE PME for officers, NCOs, and especially warrant officers. This initiative was comprehensive, and ensured institutional training that prepared soldiers and leaders for the future. He tested our aviation doctrine to support combined arms operation by nesting his teams with our training centers during rotations, so we could make adjustments on the fly. Moving doctrine, what a concept. I know the same devotion, fervor, and dedication that Eric showed in this job are the same traits he's shown in all of those other assignments. So I'm sure he's accustomed to hearing what I'm about to say about his performance here. Job well done. He's amassed many memories during his 33-year career, and I understand that two are most prominent. First, his combat assignment with 4th ID during Operation Iraqi Freedom. What made this assignment memorable was the CAV mission and the people he served with in 110, and I believe Fox Troop and Delta Troop. Yeah, Troop Command's really it. If you ain't CAV, you ain't. All right. Second, his love for the Coyote Warrior aircraft and being a scout pilot. As a former and fellow scout pilot, I understand your feelings. Nonetheless, I hope you also remember this team at Fort Novosel and across the aviation enterprise. We will remember your contributions and the fond memories we have of you and your family. Monica, Catherine, Lexi, parents, extended family, thank you for your support of Eric throughout his career. I know he would be the first to admit that he couldn't have done what he's done for all of us and for our nation without you. Monica, Sadie and I are deeply appreciative of your support for soldiers and families, not only here, but across the Army and across the globe for so many years. We cannot repay you for your time, efforts, or worry. We thank you, and our nation thanks you. Eric, I know you like aircraft maintenance and particularly working on warbirds, so this respite will give you an opportunity to more of those adventures as well. But it's said that retirement is when you switch bosses from the one who hired you to the one who married you. I hope Monica and the girls enjoy your retirement. You'll be missed and always welcome at the home of Army Aviation. Colonel Eric Puls, congratulations on your retirement and thank you for your service and job well done. Remember, as a soldier for life, just as the greatest generation that went before you, you will continue to serve your community and be all you can be. In your community, school boards, or just raising your family, you will always be above the best.
Colonel and Mrs. Puls, will you please join Major General McCurry, please? Attention to orders. The Legion of Merit is presented to Colonel Eric S. Puls for exceptionally meritorious service, culminating a distinguished military career as the Director of Training and Doctrine for the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence, Fort Novosel, Alabama. Throughout a distinguished 30-year career, Colonel Puls' outstanding commitment to training and leader development of soldiers and Army aviators contributed immeasurably to the readiness and warfighting skills of numerous organizations at the division, corps, and Army levels. Colonel Puls' contributions and superior performance are in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflect distinct credit upon him, the United States Army Aviation Center of Excellence, and the Combined Arms Center, and the United States Army. Given by order of the Secretary of the Army on the 14th day of June 2023, signed Milford H. Beagle, Jr., Lieutenant General, Commanding. Please be seated. Colonel Puls is receiving a certificate of appreciation from the President of the United States. It reads in part, I extend my personal gratitude and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication to our armed forces helped to protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the longest traditions of the finest military in the world, embodied the American ideal of selfless service to our nation. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Signed, Joseph R. Biden, Commander-in-Chief. Colonel Puls will now be presented a certificate of retirement signed by General McConnell, the Army Chief of Staff, for his commitment and dedication over the last 30 years of service. Colonel Puls is also receiving an American flag in recognition of his contributions to our nation, our Army, and the aviation branch. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel appearing before a most arduous and discriminatory community of tried and proven Army aviators and aviation patriots, be it known that Colonel Eric Puls was tested and found worthy of a special recognition for significant and outstanding contributions to the community of Army aviation, and is hereby inducted into the Honorable Order of St. Michael Silver Award. The Archangel, St. Michael, is the embodiment of courage, justice, gallantry, and so too the aforementioned individual embodies these qualities and represents excellence in Army aviation. Therefore, the President of the Army Aviation Association of America, with the concurrence of the Chief of Army Aviation, acknowledges that this patriot is due special honor and respect for now and prosperity. Given under my hand the 23rd day of May 2023, signed Major General Retired Walter L. Davis, President, Army Aviation Association of America.
Thanks, brother.
Mrs. Puls, would you kindly switch positions with your husband? Mrs. Puls is presented with a certificate of appreciation on the occasion of the retirement of your husband from the United States Army, in grateful appreciation for your own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service, your unfailing support and helpful and understanding help to make the possible your spouse's lasting contributions to their nation. Signed, James C. McConnell, Army Chief of Staff. Thank you, General McCurry and Mrs. Puls. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Puls.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. How are you today? I appreciate everybody showing up today, and the boss actually covered a lot of what I'm going to talk about, but I'm going to take a few minutes to thank some very special people that are here. But first off, I want to thank God for everything that I've gotten. Everything I've received has been a benefit and a gift from you, and I appreciate all your blessings that you've given me forever. So when I talk to you today, I just want to talk through the lens of three things: time, numbers, and mentors. As you all know, I take stock in every mentor that I ever had. So the first thing I want to do is, if you have served in the Vietnam War, please stand up. Thank you, gentlemen. So as the boss read off a little while ago, I was born in February 71, and that same year there were still 157,000 Vietnam soldiers fighting in Vietnam, or American soldiers fighting in Vietnam, excuse me, and about 2,414 of them did not come back home. These gentlemen that stood up in front of you were the people that taught me how to fly when I was here as a young lieutenant, and I appreciate everything they did. They were also the people that were in my first unit. Thank you for your service, General Hennis, Doc Holliday, Mr. Green, Jack Holmes, the Governor, Dave Shepard, and many more just like you. I appreciate everything that you've done. So I said numbers, mentors, and hours. So the first 6,570 days of my life, or 157,608 hours, were with Mom and Dad. And as you know, my mom and dad are the Iron family. My dad was a senior non-commissioned officer in the Air Force, and I was raised in a non-commissioned officer's house that built solid foundations, a loving environment, and we went all over the world. It was great. And Michelle, you were a huge part of that. No crying. Okay? Haven't had enough time. Okay? So, one of the greatest things that my parents ever did, besides my dad being a nuke weapons specialist, big bang, boom, bomb, was to go to Europe during 1989. If you all remember, 1989 is the year the wall fell down. It's also the year I graduated from high school. So I lived what we call a bougie life as a dependent of the United States Air Force. That was about to change. I got home and got introduced to CW2 Horace Colpitts, which was my grandfather, a BMO for the 152nd Field Artillery that had invaded an island hopping campaign of World War II. And if you saw the pictures up here, my Uncle Keith, tail gunner for a B-25. Those gentlemen were the first gentlemen that helped me get my stuff together and get into the University of Maine. So I wanted to be an Air Force bomber pilot, to tell you the truth. I wanted to fly the B-52. The Air Force told me I was too stupid. So after being seriously pissed off, I walked down the streets in University of Maine Armory, ROTC, and I walked into and met the foundation and the backbone of our United States Army, my first non-commissioned officer, Master Sergeant Timothy DeRaps. Sergeant DeRaps, can you please raise your hand so everybody can see who you are? So for all of my So Master Sergeant DeRap is harder than woodpecker lips. He hails from the state of Maine, and he's a proud member of the 10th Special Forces, Fort Devens, Massachusetts, Alpine expert, and probably spent more time behind the Iron Curtain in Berlin than most of us have in our lives. He was also the first non-commissioned officer that I have. And all of my non-commissioned officers that are present here today, this is the man in which the measurement was met and you have been measured by. I would like to thank the following non-commissioned officers for everything they have given to me. One is my dad, okay? Sergeant DeRaps, Command Sergeant Major Wilson, Coley, Sanders, Thompson, J.T. Hall, Jordan, First Sergeant Anhalt, Spence, Brown, Hayes, Howell, Palmer, Pittman, Morgan, Self, Mitchell, and of course, Sergeant Bailey, who taught me how to drive a Humvee on the backside of the DZ at Normandy Drop Zone so many years ago at Fort Bragg. Okay? After college, of course, the boss said Fort Dix, Fort Rucker, private through sergeant in the Maine Army National Guard, and then I became a commissioned. I was a 5-year plan guy at the University of Maine, had to do a victory lap, and then I came down here after a short tour at Fort Bragg as an advanced camp lieutenant to go to flight school. And just like now, we had a bubble back then. And so a very special man in my heart, General Allen, retired aviator, was my commencement speaker, and he told me to go get a job at the museum. You being a crew chief, they need your help putting together stuff. And so I had the opportunity to climb in, and rebuild. I think the number is 15 of the displays that are at the museum. Here are some stats from my past. We talked about my parents and them, but right now I'm looking at 12,320 days, 295,680 hours of active duty service. Just quickly going down through this, the boss mentioned the deployments, 46 months in the past 10 years in the field, mostly CAV squadrons, 18 family moves, 6 NTC rotations, 1 JRTC rotation, all of which were last century. Okay. 1,852 days deployed, 1,100 plus of that is in combat. I did 159 days of eating MREs, and I know that because I went back into my journals and saw that, but what was more important and more astonishing to me was 43 days without a shower during RF1, okay? I have participated, like the boss said, in a magic number of 52 mission rehearsal exercises with warfighters during my time in MCTP. I have amassed just under 1,700 fixed wing hours, 1,700 rotary wing hours, about 1,000 fixed wing hours, and I'll fly anything that you let me get my hands on. Whether I do it very well or not, you might want to have somebody sitting next to me, okay? So I'm rated in pretty much anything that's in the museum. So some of the things that I'm kind of proud of as a 58D dude, sorry, attack guys, but I probably have fired more Hellfires than you have, shot more rockets than you have, and definitely shot more 50 cal and M4 through the window, so ha-ha, okay? I made E1 through E5, and my grandfather got to see that. So did my Uncle Keith. So did my dad. I made it to colonel, from private to colonel in the United States Army, an army that's gone through drawdowns and buildups, several deployments and wars. Favorite aircraft to fly? The boss mentioned the OH-58D. That was my favorite mission profile. Love counter reconnaissance and chasing after bad guys, but my favorite airplane to ever fly was the good old war pig of the UH-1. Favorite mission, of course, is reconnaissance. Favorite units that I've ever served in are air cavalry squadrons. You ever want to be a maneuverist, serve in an air cavalry squadron or a cav squadron, period. Favorite mission. This is really important because there's several members in here that are part of this. And you should ask them what it was all about someday. Prime Chance, Dudley Carver, Jimmy Lattimore, the rest of the guys that are in here, thank you for teaching me how to do the 32 deck landings I have. The USACE Museum, which I call the Hall of Heroes, and not because the people of the pictures that are hung on the wall, but the aircraft that are in there, okay? I want to thank, as I thanked my NCOs earlier, I want to thank my Chief Warrant Officer, starting with Jimmy Lattimore, Chris Dodd, Dudley Carver, Rick Stout, Scott Kramer, Will Green, Eli Myers, Aaron Hairston, Mark Mata, Scotty Bravo, Sam Baker, Randy Godfrey, Carl Metz, and many others that I could list off all day long. You guys are the staunch, true professionals, master technicians, and I would not be a doctrinally sound AMC and pilot in command if it wasn't for you showing me how to apply air power in support of a ground force. To the commanders that I've had in the past, Smith, Gould, rest your soul, Mays, Jocelyn, Tatu, Martin, Major, Moody, Barkley, Muth, Chase, Nitty, Stahl, Jones, and of course, you, sir, allowing me to have the freedom of maneuver to make decisions and applying the right distance and direction when I was off course and needed some headspace and timing. Thank you very much. Senior mentors. I refer to senior mentors as pretty much anybody that's retired, but some of these guys come in with some heavyweight punches. Graybeards is what I've referred to them, and they're not just all generals. Some of them are privates and sergeants. Okay, Grange Senior, Hendricks, Campbell, Hogue, Thomas, Colt, Golden, Wolf, General Hennis, Thomas, Haas, Shanahan from the Australian Army, and all of the senior graybeards, Mike, Mr. Osmond, Mr. Bennett, Bo Thurman, Mr. Perry, for keeping me on track while I was working with you in DOTD. What a great experience. What I ask of you now is never stop mentoring. I hope that all of you can reach back and see these names in your own past. I appreciate all of your mentorship that you have given me. It has been great. To my partners and allies, LOs, those who have stood toe-to-toe with me and shoulder-to-shoulder in some of the darkest, worst places on this world, thank you for, one, putting up with my butchering of the English language and Pulsanese. I know I'm very hard to understand, especially when the main accent slips out every now and then. Together, our countries can achieve anything, any mission at any time, at any place. And I truly thank you for your support. To the Wiregrass community, and of course those special friends that we have downtown, you guys are amazing. I can't thank you enough for allowing me a chance to do the things that I do down there. It has really, really been the best medicine in the world for me. Okay, this is where it gets kind of ugly, and hopefully the ugly face won't come out. So statistics, we talked about these right before, mentoring, right? I am nothing that I got today. Like the boss said, the best gift is the flag. But with all the awards that I've received, all the medals in my chest, I am nothing without my family, my direct nuclear family. Most important sensitive items and pacing items that I have, and I have had them for 8,760 days or 21,000 plus hours. I have been in love with the most beautiful and caring best friend ever. Monica, you're the reason I'm here today. You have been the driving force, as everybody says, the boss says, the new boss says, held the team Impulse as our CG together for so many years on so many deployments and so many vacations where I was not there. I can do my best to tell you that I am never leaving your side again. Yeah, it would be. You have been and always be the best blessing from God I have ever received. Okay, so this is the real hard part.
Chocolate.
Yeah. So, two sensitive items that are most important to me. Catherine and Alexandria. Come on. You have endured an immense amount. And I'm extremely proud of everything you've become. On a good note, just where we struck it. Yesterday, Lexi passed the national, EMT evaluation. Sorry. And I'm extremely proud of all of you, both of you. All right, sorry, get it together, Puls. We're on the home stretch. All right, so there's a few things that I've said over and over in all the speeches I've ever given, and they're called the Pulse Big Five. I want you to be, know, and do, okay? Be at the right place, at the right time, plus or minus 2 minutes. Leadership is a contact sport and requires your presence. Always be in a mission-ready posture. Always be ready to fight, win the first time on every engagement that we have in the future. Okay? That's all of us, to include our allies. Lead from the front, be, know, and do in everything you remember. Reflect on your oath often, and please do this as often as you can. It's more important than going to a meeting. Coach, teach, mentor, and learn every day, and help the next generation defend this great country. Because if the national guidon changes, things will be totally different. And so, because I was boo-boo-lipping a little bit, I just want to tell Catherine, I'm extremely proud of you. And Lexi Puls, like I said, she's rocking AIT right now. And yesterday we found out of all the students that have gone through, only 25% ever have passed the EMT course on the first time, and Lexi did it. So I'm extremely important. So again, above the best, lead from the front. If you ain't Cav, you know what you are. Sir, I appreciate everything that you've done and the whole entire chain of command. And I am sorry that I cried a little bit. Other than that, public affairs announcement. There's no real social. There's a no host kind of thing going on for family because that's where we like to eat down there at Big Mike's tonight, kind of around 5:30 if you want to come by, buy you beer, stuff like that. We're going to have cake at the back. I appreciate everyone's support here, and I did leave out the Council of Colonels or the Flock of Seagulls or the Super Chickens. I really appreciate everything that you guys, one, have allowed me to do, two, made sure my tail feathers weren't on fire when I was stepping out of bounds, okay? And then, of course, the camaraderie in the neighborhood has been fantastic. I will miss all of you. I will miss the military a lot, but I'm ready for the next level. And as you know, watch the sky, because if I get my hands on anything that flies, I'm gonna fly it. So that's all I got. Thank you for today.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the ceremony. We appreciate your attendance. At this time, you are cordially invited to bid farewell to the Colonel Puls and his family and join them for refreshments.